All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to say call halayim Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Quitash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth and who rule well in this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Peace and mercy unto you, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. You are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of. You are the true chosen people of the book. All right, man. So I'm back in this book, man. All right, called Population Control by Jim Marrs, which goes into all the ways Esau Edom goes about to depopulating the masses, all right, because that's their agenda, all right, to depopulate the masses, because they have an agenda, a New World Order agenda, and part of that New World Order agenda, all right, is to depopulate the masses, man. When you look at the Georgia Guidestones, all right, one of the orders of the Georgia Guidestones is to what? To bring down the population of this earth to 500 million, all right, so that's their agenda, man, to depopulate the masses, man. And they go about it in many ways. I've already done many lessons on this book. All right. You know, this book goes into the chemtrails. All right. The GMO foods. All right. The poisoning of the water supply, the food supply. All right. It goes into the Maxines like you see on screen right here. And that's what we're getting ready to go into, man. All right. Maxines. All right. The Maxine Nightingale'S. All right. Is another way for the elites to depopulate the masses, man. All right. Because the less people there are, the easier it is to control, man. All right, so let's get into this, man. All right, this is chapter 5. All right, like you see on screen, deadly Maxine Nightingale'S, man. All right, so let's do some reading, man. All right, and I suggest you go down my timeline on my YouTube channel and, you know, watch all the lessons I did on this book, man. This is beautiful information gets brought out, man. All right, in this book, man. It's a very good book, man. All right. So let's get into it, man. This is chapter 5, and excuse me if you have if you hear a lot of background noise, I'm outside, all right, next to a main highway where you hear nothing but traffic. So please excuse that. But let's get into it, man. Chapter 5, Deadly Maxine Nightingale'S, all right? So it says, in the early 1950s, U.S. children typically receive 13 doses of 4 vaccines. That's crazy, man. All right, if you think about it, you know, being injected with a foreign object, a man-made so-called Maxine, man. All right, and the word Maxine means cattle, man. All right, when you go back to the etymology of the word, you know, Maxine, all right, I'm trying to say, you know, vaccine. I'm not really trying to say that word, you know. I'm not trying to get my video taken down, but, you know, the etymology of the word Maxine, all right, is cattle, man. It means cattle, man. Okay? So it says, in the early 1950s, U.S. children typically receive 13 doses of 4 vaccines. That's crazy, all right? All right, for diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, and smallpox, but not more than 3 doses in a single visit. By the mid-1980s, 4 more vaccines were added: measles, mumps, rubella, and polio. Today, the number of vaccines recommended by the Center for Disease Control is higher than in any country in the world, all right? And that's why the people of America, all right, are the most zombified, the most dumbed down, the most stupid, all right, the most brain dead people on this planet Earth, man. All right, because of all the vaccines, all right, the poisoning of the water supply, the food supply. All right, you people eat nothing but chemicals. All right, Twinkies and donuts, Chips Ahoy cookies and Oreos. All right, you know, this is all part of the plan of the elites, man. This is how they depopulate the masses, man. You know, you're drinking fluoride water. You know, that's why you oh man, you American people are the most brain dead, most zombified people on this earth, man. That's why when you hear this truth, man, you can't receive it, man. All right, unless you're of the elect, the Lord wants you to receive it, man. Okay, it says today the number of vaccines, recommended by the Center for Disease Control is higher than in any country in the world. Woo. All right. It says the CDC recommends children receive as many as 37 doses of 14 vaccines by the age of 2. That's wild, bro. All right. That is wild. 37 doses of 14 vaccines by the age of 2. Imagine all that poison going into your body within 2 years. See, in the ancient world, they didn't need Maxines, man. They didn't need any Maxine Nightingale's, man. In the ancient world, bro. So why the hell you need them now? You don't need them now. True medicine is of the earth, man. All right, like the scriptures say. All right, what's that? The book of Sirach, the 38th chapter, the 4th verse. All right, the Most High created medicines out of the earth, and those that are wise would not abhor them, man. True medicine is of the earth. Fruits, vegetables, herbs, and spices. That's medicine, man. You don't need no Maxines, man. Man-made Maxines, man. You know? Let's keep reading. All right. 37 doses of 14 vaccines by the age of 2. And 48 doses of 14 vaccines by the age of 6. Imagine being 2 years old to 6 years old. And you just brain dead. That's why the children, all right, people of America grow up to be just the most docile, most nonchalant zombies, you know, have no mind of their own to think. Man. And somehow you coon ass Negroes and Spicks, all right, don't think that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is the devil. Come on, man. Look at what we're reading. Because this all starts with the elite banking families. This is happening. This is all happening underneath their watch, underneath their rulership. All right. Come on, man. All right, because the elite banking families, all these major corporations, these giant, all right, mega corporations, all right, are all bought and paid for by the elites, trickling down to these, you know, these lesser elite companies, these global companies, you know, they're all bought and paid. The FDA, the CDC, all right, the WEF, WHO, you know, these are all organizations and administrations all bought and paid for by the elites, man. All right, money speaks, man. Money talks. All right. It says 48 doses of 14 vaccines by age 6, with sometimes as many as 8 vaccine shots in a single visit. Critics point out that over-vaccination and the infusion into vaccine of additives such as fluoride. So they putting fluoride in the Maxines, man. They putting fluoride in the Maxines, bro. All right, fluoride is a byproduct of aluminum, and it's also the leading ingredient in rat poison. This is what they put in the food supply, the water supply, and they put it in the Maxines, man. You think that it wasn't in the Maxines they gave you these Maxines they gave you during the scamdemic, man, and you people lined up for it like the brain dead sheep y'all are, man. You got sick and thought, yo, I got the bovid, man. Let me go get the Maxine Nightingale like the brain dead sheep I am, man. You know, and it be you Christians too, man. It goes to show you Christians have no idea what is happening, what's going on, man. All right, let alone have understanding of the scriptures, man. All right, it says with sometimes as many as 8 vaccine shots in a single visit. Critics point out that over vaccination and the infusion of Maxines of additives such as fluoride have had disastrous results for children. Of course, man. Of course, duh. All right. It says the battle lines of the Maxine debate are clear. Independent doctors and researchers have lined up against government regulators and the pharmaceutical industry. All right, let's keep reading. It says another critic is Dr. Lawrence Palevsky, all right, a board-certified pediatrician trained at the New York School of Medicine. He explained his transition from Maxine believer to Maxine skeptic. When I went through medical school, I was taught that Maxines were completely safe and completely effective. Yeah, and that's why you got these doctors. All right, all they do is tell you what they have been taught. All right, through the medical field, man. All right, through medical education, man. All right, which, you know, when these doctors go to school, all they do is brainwash these doctors, man. You know, they indoctrinate these doctors with lies, man. You know, and the word doctor itself, all right, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Greek word that means to falsify and to deceive. All right, I think it goes back to either the Latin or Greek, all right, which means to falsify and deceive, man. All right, it says he explained his transition from Maxine believer to Maxine skeptic. When I went through medical school, I was taught that Maxines were completely safe and completely effective, and I had no reason to believe otherwise. All the information that I was taught was pretty standard in all the medical schools and the teachings and scientific literature throughout the country. I had no reason to disbelieve it, but more and more I kept seeing that my experience of the world, my experience in using and reading about Maxines and hearing what parents were saying about Maxines were very different from what I was taught in medical school and my residency training. All right, Palevsky, along with other physicians, all right, has become concerned that Maxines have not been completely proven safe or even completely effective based on literature now available. See, that's another thing, man. All right, see, they came up with this Maxine out of nowhere, all right, during this scamdemic. How the hell they were able to create a Maxine out of nowhere? All right, it usually takes 10 to 15 years to create them. It took like 10, if I'm not mistaken, it took 10 to 15 years to come up with the polio vaccine and the flu vaccine, you know. But out of nowhere, they had a vaccine for the COVID, man. All right, for the you know what, man. All right, come on, man. All right, and it hasn't been tested, none of that, man. It says yet many doctors remain unwilling to consider the possibility that something might be wrong with Maxines, all right, because they're brain dead. All right, because they're brain dead, man. All right. It says most pediatricians are indoctrinated. Yeah, we know this. We know this, man. All right, most pediatricians are indoctrinated to simply tell parents that anything related to a bad outcome from a Maxine is a mere coincidence. All right, but how come there are so many of these coincidences? All right, Palevsky wonders. All right, it is heartbreaking because I see many of these kids who are developmentally normal, who were doing well, who were speaking, then whose voices and eye contacts were lost, who went into seizures, all right, who developed asthma and allergies, and they had nowhere to go because their doctors told them that they don't know what they're talking about. These kids are real. Yeah, and that's fucked up. All right, that's messed up, man. Bro, this world gotta go, bro. This world is done, man. All right? And all these doctors that purposely poison people, all right, and destroy people, it's gonna be a beautiful thing to get a hand on y'all, man. All right, in the kingdom of heaven, Lord willing. All right, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakah Quitash, man, Rataza. You know, I'm of the elect, man. You know, I get the eye, bro. I can't wait, bro. Like, whoo, this world is done, man. All right, it says Polevsky, all right, argues that proper Maxine studies have not been conducted, and that medical literature is pretty supportive of the fact that Maxines have much greater adverse outcomes of the genotype of the body, the immune system of the body, the brain of the body, and the intracellular functions of the body than we are willing to tell the public about. Yeah, all right. Let's keep reading. It says, despite proponents' claims that more than 20,000 studies have proven the safety of Maxines, a closer look reveals otherwise. All right. It says, before such studies can be uncritically accepted, it should be asked how the study was designed and by whom. All right. Were there any control groups? What was the size of the study's population, and were they kids or adults? I think we will see that in most of those studies that actual safety has never really been proven. Appointed or pinned Polevsky, all right? Polevsky, all right? Proponents of Maxines also argue that unvaccinated people benefit from the fact that most children are vaccinated, all right? This is called herd immunity, all right? The idea is that the more people that are vaccinated, the less likely it is that anyone in that community will become infected. This, they brainwash you to think that way. All right. You could have, you could be a group of people, right? I heard of that. It's called the herd mentality. All right. You could be in a group with 20 people, right? And 20 people, you say one thing, you're the only person that's different out of that whole group of 20. You say one thing, right? But the other 19 people, all right, say otherwise, and you're obviously correct. You're obviously the correct one, and you know that you're the correct one, right? But since it's 19 others, saying the total opposite, you might think to yourself, oh, I might be wrong. Even though you know you're correct, you still might go, oh, I might be wrong, because you got 19 people in the group saying otherwise, all right? And then, you might switch up your answer. But, the scriptures say, follow not a multitude to do evil, man. That's what a herd mentality is. You follow after the herd. You follow, and that's how the rest of this earth is, man. Everybody just copy and paste each other, man. The scriptures say, follow not after a multitude to do wicked or evil. All right. We not gonna sit here and get Maxines because the rest of the world did it. We not brain dead sheep, man. All right. Let's keep reading, man. It says, where was I at? It says, okay, right here. It says, I'm right here with it. All right, right here. This. All right. It says, this has been cast into serious doubt by members of the medical community. Dr. Polevsky, all right, and others believe it is preposterous to think that children who are vaccinated no longer carry the bacteria or the viruses for which they have been inoculated. All right. If in fact children are vaccinated, then why should parents and public health authorities be afraid that non-vaccinated children are somehow carrying something that their children are not? Exactly. All right. You can't have it both ways, argued Dr. Palevsky. All right. You can't vaccinate believing their children are not. You can't vaccinate believing that your children are protected and then feel that your children are not protected because somehow some non-vaccinated child is carrying some secret organism that no one else is carrying. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and you got people that think like that, man. All right, you had people that thought like that during this scamdemic, man. All right, let's keep reading. It says, others agree. Dr. Russell Blaylock writes that vaccine-induced herd immunity is mostly myth. All right, can be proven quite simply. When I was in medical school, we were taught that all of the childhood vaccines lasted a lifetime. This thinking existed over 70 years. It was not until relatively recent that it was discovered that most of these vaccines lost their effectiveness 2 to 10 years after being given. What this means is that at least half the population that is the baby boomer have had no vaccine-induced immunity against any of these diseases for which they had been vaccinated very early in life. All right. It says, in essence, this would mean at least 50% or more of the population lost their immune protection within 2 to 10 years of being vaccinated. Thus, most of the population today goes without the 95% number claimed needed for herd immunity. All right. Most medical authorities agree that the vaccine question, all right, does not lend itself to simple yes or no answers. Should parents forbid any vaccination whatsoever or allow whatever their doctor prescribes? More and more Americans are deciding that such questions should be left up to the individual parent. Proponents of informed consent contend that families who have done their homework should be able to make their own choices. When parents are given both sides, it is up to them to make that informed choice, advised Dr. Palevsky. All right, let's keep reading. All right, it says, what is clear, however, from the history of vaccination is that there are very real risks associated with the practice. All right, in 1998, 3 vaccine manufacturers faced lawsuits in the UK after parents, all right, they reported more than 1,500 instances of side effects following the administration of measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines. All right, despite assurances from British health officials that there were no connection between the reported symptoms and vaccines. Okay, all right. Cases were set for trial in the High Court to decide whether the vaccine caused symptoms of autism and bowel problems. All right. The cases were funded under the English legal aid system and supported by 27 experts who prepared reports supporting the children's cases. All right. The parents believed their children were normal before being vaccinated and saw nothing but vaccinations to account for the subsequent changes. All right, the cases stalled and have not proceeded after legal aid was withdrawn in August 2003, leaving the question of vaccine culpability unresolved. All right, it says, while supporters claim vaccinations are necessary for good health, an article published in Pediatrics Journal refuted this claim. It described how the majority of infectious diseases were reduced prior to World War II thanks to greater health care and nutrition, better sanitation, and improved living conditions. This was long before the widespread use of antibiotics and vaccinations. All right, so I'll leave it at that, man. Lord willing, you know, this lesson was edifying. I will read more, but you know, I might save it for another a lesson, maybe a part 2. All right, so, you know, Lord willing, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Ratazad, this lesson was edifying, man. All right, I want to say call Halalyam Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakal Quitash. All right, so on to the next one. Shalom, shalom.